At a minimum, you want to kind of trace all the wires out, look for any connectors that are loose or anything like that. Trace your whole harness. Check it in any spots. Make sure it doesn't look pinched or anything like that. You don't see any signs of chafing or any wires broken. Again, we've seen these two I showed you earlier that I've got to deal with. But follow that front to back, check all the wires, all the connectors, make sure nothing's coming loose, chafed, anything like that. Nothing looks like it's going to be pinched. In my case, I've got to deal with these two wires anyway. Now the easy way to take care of these two wires, if you've got something loose like this, would be just to apply either liquid or regular electrical tape to each one individually, because you don't want them to touch each other, and then tape them down again individually to the wiring harness. That would be the fast way to take care of it. There's really nothing wrong with doing it that way. I'm going to split the wiring harness as far as I need to trace the root of these wires down and remove them. The long way is to find the ends and of course start peeling the electrical tape off until you get down to the wire loom and you can open the wire loom up. The faster way is to use a box cutter and just kind of cut along the seam of the wire loom, and you can open it up and peel the tape off that way a lot faster. But you got to be really careful with a box cutter, because the last thing you want to do is cut into your wires in there. So just to give you a quick idea, you can see I've slit down there, and then you can start peeling the wire loom open, and then you can see your wires inside of there. So I found the junctions for both the green and the black and white wire within a couple of inches of where they were sticking out of the wire loom here. So what I did is I peeled back the electrical tape that's around the junction, hopefully you can see here, just far enough that I can see where the wire's connected, and then get in there with wire cutters and cut just the wire that I want off of there. Do that for both of them. And then once you get that done, rewrap all around this area with electrical tape again, and then you can put all the wires back into your wire loom and seal those back up with electrical tape just like it was before you cut it open. Next, I'm going to replace the stock glass fuse and the holder like you see here with a mini blade style fuse. You want to use the same amperage of fuse in here that came out of your stock harness. This is a 10 amp. I've got a 10 amp mini blade fuse in here. And when you pick those up, you want to get some spares, carry those with you just in case. So what I do is just compare the lengths of the wires here, cut this off at about the right spot. You'll need to install a ring terminal on the end of your fuse holder. You can cut this one off the stock one if you'd like and solder that on. I'm just going to use a replacement ring terminal. So start out by sliding a piece of heat shrink tubing over the wire here, get it down out of the way. Then of course you slide the ring terminal on over the exposed wires at the end. Go ahead and crimp that on. Once I've got that crimped on, I like to apply a little flux around it and then solder it just to be sure it won't move. You can just slide your heat shrink tubing up there around it. Use a lighter to mount the heat shrink tubing around the wire and the connection. Moving on to the other side, you want to strip the wire back coming from the harness just a little bit. Slide a piece of heat shrink tubing over that and out of the way. Grab your fuse holder here and twist the two wires together so they kind of interlock. Apply a little flux, then you can solder the two connections together. Slide the heat shrink tubing up over that area where you just made the connection, and that should finish up your connection for your new fuse holder. Now I'm going to go around the scooter and apply dielectric grease to the connectors. What it does, it protects your connectors from corrosion, helps keep moisture out and stuff like that. It's especially important if you're going to park your scooter outside or you plan to be riding in the rain or anything like that. So all you've got to do is disconnect the connector here. I usually just take on the female side and apply a bead, a little bit of the grease into each connector, and then of course when you put them together it'll kind of work its way over both sides of it. So then reinstall that and the grease should be on both sides of the connector, help to protect it. Another thing that some people do to try to protect their electrical connections from moisture is to use some clear silicone, and you would just apply it around the ends here to try and seal moisture out of the connectors. You can be pretty liberal with this. Doesn't really matter, it's not going to hurt anything. But you would just go around the ends, both sides, and then you may also want to hit the center here where they connect, just to totally seal it up. So again, what that does is you're trying to seal moisture completely out of the connectors there. So whether you choose to use the silicone or not, you'll want to go around the scooter and at least apply dielectric grease to all the connectors like I just showed you. And it's not just this style, also you'll have some bullet connectors like these here. You want to take those apart, smear a little grease on those and apply it. And you also want to do the light bulbs. With the light bulbs, you should just twist the bulb out and you would just put a little dielectric grease right around the contact points here. And then reinstall the bulb. Wanted to show you a spot you may not think of when you're applying your grease. And that's right here on the back of this ignition lock cylinder. It's got a wire tie. You cut the wire tie off. And then you'll have a black like plastic cover here, and then you can see you've got a bunch of connections. You want to apply some dielectric grease over all the little soldered connections in there to protect those. Once you've got a little grease over all those, of course you just want to slip this rubber boot back up over there and zip tie that back into place. While you're working with all these wire connectors around your gauge cluster, you'll also want to take a second to verify that your speedometer cable here is screwed in tight to the gauge cluster. Now if you've been using silicone on all your connections, you're probably going to want to give it a little while to dry before you do this so you don't make quite as much of a mess. But you want to go around the scooter, find where you've got wires loose, hanging off, and then start securing those with zip ties around the frame. Of course, just be careful, don't put it so tight that you're hurting anything.